The countryside was quiet, except for the songs of birds and the rustle of wheat swaying gently in the wind. In a small village, there lived a farmer named Thomas. He was hardworking, kind, and deeply devoted to his land. Every morning, Thomas rose before sunrise. He plowed his fields, sowed seeds, watered his crops, and prayed for good harvests. Farming was not easy, but he believed in the dignity of honest work. One summer, the skies grew dark, and the winds turned fierce. A sudden storm swept across the land, thrashing the crops with rain and hail. By the time it passed, Thomas's fields were ruined, plants bent, wheat flattened, soil washed away. Thomas stood in his field, his heart sinking. "All my work," he whispered, "gone in a single night." His neighbors, seeing the destruction, sat helplessly by their ruined fields. Some cursed the skies, others wept in despair. But Thomas did not sit down. He picked up his plow, straightened his back, and began working again. His wife, Mary, watched him from the doorway. "Thomas," she called gently, "why do you toil again? The harvest is ruined. You cannot undo the storm." Thomas looked at her and said calmly, "The storm was not in my hands, but the work is. My duty is to farm, to give my best each day. The harvest, whether plentiful or poor, is not mine to control." Mary's eyes softened, but she still asked, "And if next year brings another storm?" "Then I will plant again," Thomas replied. "I cannot command the skies, but I can command my hands. The results belong to nature, or perhaps to God. My duty is only to act, not to cling to the fruits." Days turned into weeks. While many farmers sat idle, Thomas worked steadily. He cleared the broken stalks, tilled the soil anew, and planted fresh seeds. His neighbors shook their heads. "Why bother, Thomas?" one of them mocked. "You'll only lose again. Better to wait and hope for luck." But Thomas smiled. Hope alone cannot grow wheat. Work must follow. His quiet perseverance inspired some villagers. A few joined him, picking up their tools. Slowly, patches of green began to return to the land. By autumn, Thomas's fields glowed golden under the sun. Though smaller than usual, his harvest was enough to feed his family and share with neighbors in need. One evening, a young boy from the village ran up to him. "Uncle Thomas, how did you not give up? Weren't you afraid of failing again?" Thomas knelt to meet the boy's eyes and placed a rough hand on his shoulder. "My son," he said, "failure comes when we stop trying. Success comes when we do our duty without fear of loss or hope of reward. We work because work itself is right. The rest is not ours to decide." The boy thought deeply, his small face serious. "So, it doesn't matter if the harvest is big or small, as long as you keep farming?" Thomas smiled warmly. "Exactly. We must do what is in our power and leave the rest to God." That winter, the villagers often gathered in Thomas's barn, warmed by his fire, eating bread made from his wheat. They remembered his words when storms of life struck them. Some who once despaired learned to act with steady hearts, unshaken by success or failure. Years later, when people spoke of Thomas, they did not only call him a farmer, they called him a teacher, for he had shown them the timeless truth. We have the right to work, but not to the fruits of our work. Moral: do your duty with sincerity, but do not cling to the results. Success and failure are beyond our control. Only effort is true. Do your duty without attachment to results. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 2.